regular business meeting of the school board, the Scarborough School Board. The date is Thursday, April 28th, 2022. May I have the attendance, please?
Sure. Mrs. Giftis,
She's excused.
Ms. Casalonis,
She's excused.
Mr. Kelleher,
Here.
Ms. Leong,
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Here.
Mrs. Turner,
Here.
Ms. Giftis, here, and Ms. Bertulia.
She's excused. All right, would everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda item 4.0 is adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments this evening?
No adjustments to the agenda.
Perfect, thank you. Agenda item 5.0 is public comment on agenda items. I see one person with their hand raised. If there's anybody interested in making public comment tonight, you can line up over here by the podium. We ask that you address all comments to me as the chair. Keep your comments please to 3 minutes, and I'll take the person online first. All right, Caitlin, you can unmute and you're welcome to speak now.
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Oh, not a problem at all. Not a problem. All right. So seeing no other hands raised or no other people interested in making public comment, I will close public comment. Agenda item 6.0 is the Scarborough High School Winter Sports Recognitions. So I will turn this over to Mr. Legage.
Well, thank you and good evening. We're real pleased to be able to be here to talk about the winter season, or actually have the coaches talk about the winter season. But before I begin and get to all the students that are here and coaches, I just want to add one congratulations. And unfortunately, this person isn't here, but I believe he's listening. I was very pleased and honored to earlier this month to present at the Maine Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association annual meeting, the Middle School Athletic Director of the Year Award for the state of Maine to Jordan Ferreira, our assistant AD and middle school AD. So certainly quite an honor for all of Scarborough, certainly representative of Jordan's hard work and commitment to the students of Scarborough and the athletic department. And so I hope you join me in congratulating Jordan for that great honor. So we'll get started because we have quite a few folks to go through, and as well as Senator Brenner is here as well to present some sentiments. So we'll do that at the end, but we'll get going with introducing the coaches and coaches. I just ask if you have athletes with you, just bring them up. And as I told all the coaches and probably to the athletes, probably pleased about the athletes don't have to speak, just have to stand and support the coaches. But we'll get started. Coach Whitmore is here for girls basketball.
Thank you, Mr. Legage. I'm very pleased to be here, and we have two of our three seniors, Una Duranovic and Beth Lefevre, who are both important parts of our team this year. Our team did an outstanding job of, number one, playing together throughout the year. Number two, competing at a very, very high level. And number three, being just absolutely splendid as far as how they worked and what a pleasure it was to work with them throughout the course of the season. When the season began, I don't think there was that Scarborough was high on the list of those who were expected to achieve, but during the course of the year, we were blessed to be able to end up with a record of 16-5. And in the course of that 16 wins and 5 losses, we defeated many outstanding teams, including the 2 teams that were in the state championship, whom we defeated in the course of 4 days in January. That was an absolutely special time for the competitors on our team. I was blessed to be part of a staff that was headed by Mike Giordano, that included the I guess the youngest of our crew in Megan Agger, and in Lisa, who is probably one of the hidden gems of all athletes. And I was just very pleased to see Lisa awarded at the state convocation for Title IX 2 weeks ago, which was extremely well-deserved, because that's kind of who she is. As far as the team is concerned, there were 18 players. Of the 18 players, there were 11 freshmen, which again speaks to what the accomplishment and the leadership of the girls who are up here. And during the course of the season, we had all kinds of different things happen, but in each and every single instance, we were able to overcome difficulties. And again, it's just a mark of a team that is really special. And in the Gorham game was played after we had been off for 9 days, and they were undefeated, and they came in and we defeated them with a strong performance. And it was the 300th win for Coach Mike Giordano, and that made it even extra special as far as our girls were concerned. As far as the team, the 3 captains were the leaders, and they were leaders in every single respect, especially in what they were able to do on a daily basis within the practice structure with their teammates. And each of our 3 captains made the conference all academic team. Lindsay Fiorillo made the all conference first team. Emerson Flaker was all defense and all rookie, and Caroline Hartley was also all rookie team. And that blend was very, very special, and I was very proud to be part of it, and I will congratulate them forever. Thank you.
And Coach Phil Conley with boys basketball.
Thank you. So this year, the boys basketball team, our record was not what it usually is. We were 4-14 for the season, but we had to learn how to deal with some adversity. We had a lot of injuries in the beginning. In fact, I think we had at one point 8 guys that were injured at one point. So we had to learn how to deal with that, and our guys had to play different positions, and they continued to work hard throughout the season. Towards the end of the year, we won the last 3 out of 4 games. We were the 7 seed going in the game before our playoff game, our center got injured, so he was out for our playoff game, but we gave Thornton Academy a game. We were down by 4 at half, ended up losing, I think, by about 10 to 15 points. But this group was a special group because they worked so hard. They never gave up. It didn't matter our record. It shows the quality of kids that I coach. So I was pleased with how they competed each and every day in practice and in games. I'd also like to thank Mr. Legage. We are very lucky here at Scarborough High to have an athletic director that is so supportive of athletes and coaches. He is so organized and supportive. Like I said, it makes my job as a head coach that much easier. We've had a tough, as everyone knows, a tough 2 years, but it was a success story that we got to play 18 games our regular season this year. So I want to thank him for all that he has done for Scarborough High athletics. Thank you.
And Coach McCormick with Unified Basketball.
Okay, so I have Sam Casilius and Kaylee York here with us. These are two of our awesome seniors on our unified team. We had a great season. I asked Sam what our record was early. He said we won a bunch of games, so that's all that matters. We had last year was a difficult season. 2021. We actually we never had a complete season until this year. Which was pretty remarkable because we've only been going on for 3 years now. We had a lot of fun. I remember a specific time I talked to a couple of families about this, but we had right in the middle of the season, everyone was getting a little tired, and we had a practice where we just ended up kind of stopping and sitting on the ground. And one of our awesome parents had a ton of pictures, and we sat around and shared a bunch of pictures, and it was just this moment of reflection that I think that everyone needed at that point. And I think it shows all the support that we have from the families and also the coaches that for the other basketball teams that have helped support us. It's been pretty remarkable. And I'm a very lucky guy to coach an awesome group of kids. I know Sam wanted to share a couple things about, his favorite things with Unified. Go ahead, Sam.
It was fun.
Yeah, there you go. What was your favorite part about the team?
Being with my son
There you go.
and being with my daughter.
Good job. Thanks, Sam. So, it's a pretty remarkable experience, and I'd like to thank the athletic department for supporting Unified, and we're on to bocce and bigger things, and Unified's here to stay. So, thank you very much.
And Coach Phillips with cheering.
Hello, I have here with me Julia Phelps and Ava Wakeham. This season certainly had its adversity to work through, but we all stepped up again and tried to provide an as normal as possible experience for all of our kids, which I think we all successfully were able to provide that. Our season started with a little bit of a hurdle. To start, we didn't have enough signups, unfortunately, to have a competition season. But instead of just accepting that, I worked with Mr. Legage and Mr. Ferreira, and we brainstormed additional ideas. And luckily, we actually ended up having enough kids end up signing up. So we were able to have a normal competition season. So that was a success in itself. We had a lot of obstacles to go through. It's very difficult to work through practices when we don't have full team practices. One of, I would say, our biggest accomplishments is we were not able to stunt for about a month, which for cheerleading, that is pretty bad. But we continue to stay positive and start working towards getting our routine together for our first competition, which ended up being our conference championship SMAA. We were not able to stunt until that Thursday. our first full out was that Friday, and then we competed at SMAAs on Saturday, and we hit, and we actually even got second place, which was an amazing accomplishment. I think that in itself just shows how resilient and tough this group of kids is. They tackle every obstacle head on with a positive attitude, and they're the true definition of true grit athletes. So I could not be more proud of them and what they accomplished this season. And I also cannot thank the athletic department, Mr. Legage and Mr. Ferrer, enough with their continuous support. Without their support, I really wouldn't be able to do my job effectively. So I can't thank them enough. Thank you.
Let me just say, before we keep going, is I am was awfully sorry to find out recently that Coach Phillips is moving out of town and won't be continuing with us as a coach. And I just wanted to take a minute to thank her because she's been such a asset to the cheering program and the athletic department too. She's not only been a coach there, but been really invested in the department, helped on interview teams, and just really been part of our family. And so I'll certainly miss her greatly, and I know the kids will, and the program will too. So thank you. Next is Coach Ron Kelly with indoor track, girls indoor track.
One of my seniors on the team, Kennedy Todd, is here tonight representing the team. I'd like to thank you for recognizing us tonight. We had 37 girls. We were a young team, continued to improve throughout the year. Our overall record was 37-10. Our regular season record was 10-2. We were 4th in the conference, and in the state, out of 21 teams, we were 6th. Again, we improved throughout, in track and field. The most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is individual improvement. If kids are improving, that's the key. And as they all improve, then we get a chance to maybe be at the big, the big dance at the end. We are, like I said, we were a young team, and a lot of the teams that were ahead of us this year had a lot of seniors and are graduating. So we should be right in the mix next year with upcoming freshmen and the others coming back and continue to work hard. We should be right in the mix. We also had 7 girls go to the New Englands. 2 are relay teams, the 4x1, the 4x2 and the 4x8. And we also had 2 girls in individual events. And, I was very pleased with the girls. We have a great coaching staff, and that makes the job easy in getting the kids ready for the season. Thank you very much.
And Coach Derek Vayu with boys indoor track.
Thank you for having us this evening. I've got 2 of our senior captains, Noah Batusing and Nick Conley, with us. Also like to congratulate all the other teams. I saw that we had several teams do very well, making the postseason and a few state championships. So congratulations to all those coaches and athletes as well. Indoor track, another successful year. Overall, we went 50-2. First, we did suffer our first loss in 13 years in the regular season. But as other coaches talked about, we had a lot of adversity. We had injuries. Our numbers were down a little bit. But really, our focus was for the end of the year to perform at our best. And the state meet was one of the most exciting meets I've been a part of. And it took, our seniors. We had 7 seniors that really stepped up big time. And, in the end, we won by 3 points, which is, exciting. And these guys, that was their 3rd straight state championship indoors. So they're winners. Our senior class has been winners all along. And they accomplished a lot. We had a lot of school records set. Jaden Flaker in the hurdles, Zach Berry in the 800, the 1,000, in the 2 mile, and Nick in the shot put, and our sprint medley as well. Noah was on that with Parker Killiard, Jaden Flaker, and Zach Berry. Individual champions, Nick was the champion in the shot put. Jaden was in the hurdles, and Zach Berry in the mile and the 800. And Toby Martin won the pole vault, and Noah was on the winning relay in the 4x2 with Toby, Parker, and Jaden. So, some great things there. We had 8 members of our senior class on the all academic team. So it's great to see that not only were they excelling on the track, but in the classroom as well. Several kids on the all conference team. And we had several kids compete at the New Englands. In fact, we had 2 all New England athletes. Jaden Flaker was 2nd in the hurdles, Zach Berry 3rd in the 1,000. And then to cap it all off, we had 2 All-American performances at the national meet. Jaden Flaker in the hurdles, he was 5th. And our sprint medley team of Noah Batusing, Parker Killiard, Jaden Flaker, and Zach Berry finished 3rd in the country in the sprint medley. Pretty exciting to watch that happen, and against the best kids in the country. So it speaks to the level of kids that we have here in Scarborough. I know I certainly am in my 21st season. I feel lucky to be a part of the community and just have all these great athletes. So we're going to miss the seniors next year, but another great year for the indoor team. Thank you.
Coach Fowler with girls ice hockey.
So up here I have 3 of my seniors, Meg Donovan, Morgan Scoville, and our captain, Ashley Farrington. So this year we started off not knowing if we were going to have a team. We had 9 seniors and that was it. Some kids decided to stop playing to focus on other things. So we were kind of left wondering what to do, kind of like cheering. Fortunately, we had our seniors go out and find underclassmen, classmates, teammates to join. And we ended up getting 4 sophomores who were willing to put on the pads and try out hockey for the first time, which fortunately helped us. The seniors showed a lot of leadership throughout practices and games of just helping them, learn the sport and understand where you're supposed to be when the whistle blows and whatnot. So they, their leadership qualities really shine this season. So we went 12-6-1. We started off a little rocky, losing to Chevrolet 6-1. And all the seniors kind of had to take a look in the mirror and wonder, and kind of figure out what they wanted their senior season to be like. And they all kind of came back to the coaches and said, we want to win and we want to go as far as we can. So with that, they kind of rallied around each other and gave it their all. We ended up beating Lewiston, giving them their first loss in a couple seasons. And then we ended up going to playoffs, beating Chevrolet in 3 overtimes, going to regional finals and beating Cape, and then able to make it to states. Unfortunately, losing to Lewiston, but I'm proud of these girls and everything they've done this season. I can tell you the 3 coaches did not think we would make it that far. So to make it that far was definitely a testament to their leadership and their determination and dedication to the sport. So.
And Coach Eric Worsing with boys ice hockey.
Good evening, school board and members of the community. I am accompanied by Thomas Hassett, junior defenseman, assistant captain. This was my first year with the program, and at the beginning of the year, our goal from day one was to be playing our best hockey when it mattered most. I can easily say that at the beginning of this season, we struggled to find consistency with our program as we worked to find our identity as a team. As my first year with the program, we also had several varsity players that were in their first year due to shortened seasons of COVID and the other challenges that previous coaches have mentioned. By the time we hit February, we began to find our stride and started to gel as a program and started to build a structure that was going to help us be successful. Our regular season was far from perfect. However, we were perfect when it mattered most. 3 of our 4 games in the state playoffs went into overtime, including 2 double overtime wins, one against South Portland and one against Thornton Academy in the state championship, which is a team that beat us twice in the regular season. I'm very proud of what this program accomplished and what these players did. Not only did they persevere as they grew emotionally, we also dealt with being shut down for a week of COVID and various injuries throughout the year. We also had 2 players that received all-state recognition. One was Sam Romelhart, who was a first-team all-state forward, and another one was Jack Carlista, who was a second-team defenseman. And we have built a very strong foundation moving forward, and I'm very excited to return to this program next year and be a part of the Scarborough community. Thank you.
And Coach Eric French with boys and girls swimming.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you guys having us here this evening. We've got our 3 senior captains, Wyatt, Lily, and Risa. They're all our 3 of our seniors this season. We had 29 swimmers and a team manager to whopping 30 kids, which is one of our lower numbers. Again, we can beat the dead horse, but COVID did hurt that whole process. Kids were either afraid of coming out or they decided to change different sports or what have you. But with those, we had 21 that competed at the state championship. Our girls finished with a 1-6 regular season record. Part of it was just sheer numbers. Teams outswam us because they had more kids. Our one win was against Bangor, which we made the trip up to Hudson College there. And they had 22 girls and we had 8. So to outduel them was a nice victory for our ladies. They finished 6th on the season at Southwesterns and 9th at the state championship out of 23 teams. Our boys finished with a 6-1 regular season record. They were 2nd at Southwesterns, a very close 3 points between us and Cape Elizabeth. And then at states, they won their first state title. We had 3 school relay records broken and 3 individual records as well for the season. We had 1 Southwestern's individual meet record that was by Ethan Schultz in the 200 freestyle. It was our first time Class A sportsmanship, both boys and girls. And our first Class A state championship for the boys. So it was quite an accomplishment. Next up, I'm going to have Wyatt speak, and then Risa, and then Lily.
Good. So we just kind of wanted to give a couple of quick shout outs to some of the swimmers on our team. So for swimmer of the meet for boys Southwesterns and also boys Class A states was Jack Pillsbury. He was named the Portland Press Herald top 10 All-State, Jack, him, and also, as well as Ethan Schultz and Yenny Placeris. And we also wanted to give a shout out to Coach French being named Coach of the Year. So.
Continuing with the theme of Jack's name being mentioned, he was the MISL North Southwestern's Swimmer of the Year for Class A. And then Coach French was voted the MISL Coach of the Year and also by the Coaches Association.
And then athlete of the winter sports Scarborough forecaster was also Jack Pillsbury, and winter season coach of the year was Eric French.
Thank you, guys. And lastly, one that I think as a school, we're students first, athletes second, all academic, all Americans. We had Lily, Risa, Brendan, Sam, Jack, Jason, and Wyatt. So of our 8 seniors, we had 7 that had grade point averages of 3.75 or higher. We did have one that might make a higher level. They're still, it's like the top 100 seniors in the country, which was Jason Thatcher, who had a GPA of 106. So pretty amazing feat for swimmers. So and student athletes. Lastly, I want to thank the athletic department on giving us everything that they could for the season. You know, getting us to practices and making sure that we had pool time and were able to swim at the meets in a somewhat normal season. So, you know, shout out to the athletic department on giving us that opportunity. Thank you.
I think we'll move on with our second part of I will say that we're missing one coach. Our wrestling coach also coaches football for us and coaches freshman baseball for us, and was at a baseball game and is on his way here now, but the game just ended, but he's running a little late. So hopefully he'll get here and can chime in, but we'll move on, and I'll introduce Senator Brenner, who represents District 30, which includes part of Scarborough, and she has some sentiments to present to some of our teams, some of our successful teams.
Good evening, Chair and Honorable Board. Thanks for having me. I bring greetings from the Maine State Senate, and I want to thank you all for your service to the community. And I want to celebrate that we have once again voted 55% funding for schools. So that's exciting. And I want to thank you, coaches, for your service to our athletes. And I have 4 sentiments to deliver. Normally, athletes come up to the State House and we have a big celebration for you, but with COVID, it's been harder to get people up there. So the first one is for, hold on, I got to get the paper out of the way. This is for the girls hockey team for winning the South Regional Championship. There you go. Thank you so much. All right, next up, we have the boys swim team for winning the Class A state championship, your team's first state championship. Congratulations. Congratulations. I swam freestyle in the relay and in the butterfly. All right, the next one is for boys indoor track for winning the Class A state championship, the team's 6th state championship in 6 years. Congratulations. Congratulations. Nice work. Yes, congratulations. All right, and last up, the boys hockey team, which won the Class A state championship, the team's 3rd state championship and the 1st since 2015. Congratulations. Yes, nice work. Congratulations. Thanks for having me.
So let me just wrap up. We'll have to have Coach Watson come maybe another time to talk about wrestling. But let me wrap up and say that I'm really proud of our student athletes and our coaches who really embody the essence of education-based athletics in terms of teaching and learning. I think you heard a lot about wins and losses today, but if you attend any of the practices or games or just see the interaction between our coaches and students, then it certainly goes far beyond that. And I think we do our part in our department to strive towards building those lifelong skills that students need to be successful throughout their whole life, actually. And our coaches do a great job in terms of those teaching and learning skills in our education-based athletic environment. So thank you for everybody being here. Thanks for having us. Thanks to Senator Brenner for attending as well. And questions?
John or Jeff online, do you have a question or comment?
I just wish I could be there in person to be able to see all the coaches and students and congratulate all of the amazing accomplishments of our student athletes.
I will say that this is one of my most favorite nights. I love to have this opportunity to hear what everybody is doing and the really good accomplishments, and not only the score accomplishments, but the life lesson accomplishments, right? The opportunities to really develop leadership skills and lifelong relationships and meaningful memories. So thank you for everybody for participating. Thank you for coming and allowing us to celebrate you as well. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, so we are going to take a quick 5-minute recess and then we'll pick up with our business meeting. So those that Senator Brenner recognized, if you wouldn't mind staying for just a moment, and then everybody else is welcome to stay for our business meeting should you choose to hear about the budget. Don't go running off quickly.
Bye.
Before we move into the rest of our agenda, we're going to finish off with wrestling. Mike's.
Yes, thank you very much. Apologies. As I mentioned, Coach Watson also does several other coaching positions for us. So he was at a baseball game and just arrived back. So we can finish them up now. And he actually brought two of his student athletes with him as well. So Coach Watson with wrestling.
So, hi, I'm Coach Watson, and these were my captains this year. Senior Carrick Morgan from Scarborough High School, sophomore Luke Burns from Gorham High School. And just on the, I don't know, sorry, I'm late and just got off the baseball field. To me, wrestling is important, right? It's one of the oldest sports in the world. And it's certainly the most honest and definitely the hardest thing that you'll ever do. I coach baseball for Scarborough, football for Scarborough, wrestling for Scarborough. Wrestling in terms of a educational based sport will teach you more about yourself than anything else that you'll ever do. The amount of, I say fortitude, but just bravery, right? Confidence, courage to walk out on that mat by yourself, square off against an opponent, absolutely zero excuses, no bad passes, no missed blocks. Nobody else can fail you. You have to be mentally strong. You have to overcome adversity. You have to believe in yourself. And those traits will take these student athletes anywhere they want to go for the rest of their life. Right? Even the uniform, right? You have to be courageous to wear the uniform. Kids don't want to, people won't wrestle because of the singlet. You ask 10 kids why they don't want to wrestle, 7 will tell you the singlet. So to me, that is why wrestling is very important. We had a great season this year. It was the first year as a cooperative program with Gorham. I was very nervous at the beginning of the year because Gorham and Scarborough kind of compete in everything. So how are we going to bridge this gap? But they did it organically on their own. They became a family. They took care of each other. We won a dual meet, which was my first year as the head coach. So I'm not real familiar with the history of Scarborough wrestling in terms of wins, losses as a team. I know we have some good wrestlers individually in the past, but from what I understand, it was the first time we as a team won a dual meet in quite some time. So I'm very excited where the program is headed, and we're looking forward to the future. And thank you for having me.
Thank you both so much. Thanks for joining us. Not a problem. Thank you for coming. All right. Agenda item 7.0 is the FY23 budget public hearing. So I will turn this over to Kate.
Wait, they must have some tall kids on some of these teams. Right? Hi, guys. We're back to talk about budget. I said to Jeff earlier today, I was going to send a hologram in with a recording because for this team, we're continuing with the FY23 budget process. Tonight's the public hearing. A lot of the material that you're going to see, this is a recap of material that's been covered before by the board in a lot of different ways and a lot of different times. But this is an opportunity for the community to lend their voice. So what I've got here is hopefully a fairly quick intro to the budget hearing. This first slide, it gives us a little bit of the foundation of where we started our budget development process. This is, again, material that a lot of folks have seen before, and it's been posted as well online, but there may be folks who haven't come on board with us yet, and we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to catch up and become well-informed, all of our community members. So all of this material is available in the budget book and online, and I have a web link at the end of the slide deck that's available for the public when this gets posted. So this slide starts with the current school environment, which has influenced all of our planning and decisions this year. Everybody knows that we've been in a pandemic and everybody's talked about returning to full-time in-person instruction this year. And what a remarkable achievement that is. Just listening to the athletes this evening, the adversity that they've overcome, just sort of a microcosm of some of the things that all of our staff and students have faced this year. So our budget approach this year, we've really been balancing high student needs coming out of the pandemic, economic impacts of the pandemic, including the arrival of federal grant support last year and now the loss of federal grant support, not lost so much as using it up in the year that it was given to us. And now that's not a thing anymore. You'll hear a little bit more about that later on. And then at the same time, also trying to continue to make progress with the work that we're here to do on a daily basis, goals and initiatives that we set that have nothing to do with outside conditions, but have everything to do with the health and welfare of our students. This slide is a quick snapshot of the budget process so far. And for me, the point that the chart makes is how long and detailed and comprehensive and thorough the budget process is. And we're not done yet. We're coming to the home stretch, but we've still got work to do. Developing a responsible and effective budget is critical to our ability to serve our students, to provide the programs and services they need to thrive and succeed. So this is not a math problem. I love a math problem. That's my job. Budget development is more than a numbers exercise. And you see here some of the thought and analysis that's gone into the budget proposal. Oh, gosh, that cup of tea didn't work. I thought I'd be quicker. This slide shows the education budget as a whole, with the 3 operating funds represented here that mostly impact our request for local tax dollars. The capital budget also has a little bit of a tax impact because some of those projects are funded through tax allocations. And you see here the overall increase in the school expenditure budget, which we also call the gross budget, is 6.4%. And the tax request, which is also known as the net budget, increases by 5.31%. This chart is a quick visual representation of the general fund. The general fund is the K-12 operating budget. That's what goes to the voters in June. And it's easy to see from this chart that we're a people organization. 79.8% of our budget goes to personnel costs, meaning salaries, wages, and benefits. Then on the next slide, this chart breaks down the personnel expenditures into the categories, types of staff that we employ. Here, I think it's important to note that teachers and professionals, together with educational support staff, make up 80% of our personnel expenses, which means that 80% of our personnel spending goes toward direct instructional and support services for students. These charts are a little bit small, but they're in the slide deck. The presentation will be posted and they're in the budget book as well. So with the charts you've just seen relating to staff as a percentage of the school budget, it's not surprising that personnel costs are the major budget driver. Y'all probably memorized the budget summary a couple slides back. So I know that you'll remember that the overall increase in the general fund expenditure budget is 3.4 million from FY22 to FY23. Here you see that almost 2.8 million of that increase is attributable to staff costs. We have 3 collective bargaining agreements that expired at the end of FY21, and they've now been renegotiated. The other 3 bargaining agreements expire in June 2022, including the largest group, which is teachers and professionals. Remember that big piece of the pie. And negotiations are just getting underway for those. So building the budget, we need to allow for the bargaining agreements to offer competitive wages and benefit packages in an extremely tight labor market. Also on this budget drivers page, cost drivers page, are energy and fuel costs, which will come as no surprise to anyone currently driving a car or heating their home. And finally, we have a number of budget drivers that talk about the ongoing impacts of trying to educate our students in the pandemic environment of the past 2 years. So it's important to note that the budget proposal that we're looking at right now doesn't simply take the FY22 budget and increase it or add an escalator to it. In our individual department and phase budget meetings, we go line by line through the level services budget, which is what we call the status quo budget, providing the same programs and services that we have today. And we talk about any changes we can make to reduce costs first. We know that even level services will cost more in the coming year due to expected increases in salaries and benefits, utilities, supplies and services. And so we look for ways each year to offset those increases. And this slide calls out a few areas where we were able to make significant reductions. In the school board's budget proposal, there are some new investments that have been prioritized by our school leaders. We reviewed 33 new K-12 investments with a total value of $1.6 million and brought forward 14 of those to include for FY23. In this section, you see 6.5 added FTEs, added positions at a cost of $387,300. These are proposed for the general fund budget. I want to say that our leadership team is careful, thrifty, cheap, some might say. And they brought forward some amazing proposals, and we vetted them very carefully over the course of several meetings, prioritized, recognizing that all of these things would bring value to our district, would bring value to our students, but that we can't afford everything. So these are the items that rose to the top. So here's where we're talking about the federal money going away. We do have a little bit of ESSER money, to use one of the many acronyms that come down from the feds, available to us that we've reserved, we set aside for FY23. And so this slide shows the use of those remaining federal grant funds, and we'll be able to support 5.0 FTEs at a projected cost of $342,000, along with some other resources, summer programming, special education, and all of these, again, are reflective of the special circumstances that have arisen during the pandemic and in response to the pandemic. There is a detailed description in our budget book, in the executive summary, starting on page 6 of our book. And that has all of the grants we've received, COVID-related federal grants that we've received over the past 2 years and how those have been used. So anybody who wants to get in the weeds there, we've got some good information. This slide talks about our capital budget, quick summary of capital improvements. Here's where we request funding for larger scale infrastructure investments. I should have chosen a little easier word for myself. Funding for capital projects comes either from issuing municipal bonds, so therefore, borrowing money, or from tax dollars. And in some cases, we can tap into capital reserve funds. For the first time this year, the school board will have access to our own capital reserve account, which has been funded with the excess state subsidy we received in FY22 after the school budget had already been approved. So this slide has the phrase items in motion, which is a phrase that we use for the fact that, thinking back to the fact that this process is so long, that there's an opportunity for things to change, and they do, and particularly between the school board's first reading and then the final vote. So we're going to take our final vote on the budget next week. And these are some of the items that we're going to be looking at changing since the school board's first reading. The school board finance committee is getting together next Tuesday to review the changes that have happened so far and to make some choices and present some of those choices to the town council finance committee, and then again to the board on Thursday night so that we can make those adjustments to our budget before we close ourselves out. We will have some documentation for right now. We have a few bullet points here, but we will have some documentation for the meeting next week that shows exactly what it is that we're changing. And we'll actually have, line item budgets that have been amended as well, so that everybody can see what's going on. But we'll also talk through it so people understand those changes. Next steps, here's what's coming up next. We always seem to have a nice long bulleted list of items, but it's kind of moving. I don't know if you're noticing. And school budget validation referendum on June 14th is the end, so it'll keep getting shorter. I did want to call out on this list on the school board meeting on May 19th, where it says budget adjustments if needed. So I've just said that we're going to have our second reading and vote next week, but the town council doesn't do their second reading and vote until the 18th. And the town council actually sets the bottom line budget for the school department, for the town as a whole, right? So there may be adjustments that are made by the town council that we then have to respond to. And it's up to the school board. If the town council makes a change in the school budget, it's only to the bottom line, and then we go back and reallocate that change, and we place it into the voter categories that will go to the referendum. So we can talk more about that, but that on the 19th, we don't have an official action item, but we will have a responsive action item if needed. Let's see. This is the link to the school board's budget page, which also has a link to the town budget portal, which has a ton of information on it. I really want to encourage anybody who's watching who hasn't gotten involved yet to get out there and read some stuff. It's not all terrible nerdy stuff. The budget book is really kind of neat, and there's some good information there. And the other resource that we've been working on is a Q&A questions and answers document. The town has a good one going already. They've posted it up with some questions about the municipal budget as a whole. And we've added a little bit to that. We've answered some questions about the school budget that will be included in that. But we also have kind of our own list going that the school board finance committee has been working on, and we'll post that on our site as well. So you can pretty much get to everything you need to through this link. And this will be available in the presentation from tonight as well. And I think that's all I've got, and Shannon can take back the mic.
Sure, thank you so much for that. That was really informative. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Kate right now?
The folks at home are still awake. I'm checking Jeff.
I'm locked in. That was captivating.
Oh. Well played.
All right, so at this point, I'll just open it to the public to see if anybody has questions or comments for Kate, for us as the board. All right, seeing no hands and seeing nobody here in the public wishing to make a comment, we will close the public hearing. Thank you so much for your work, Kate. I know it's a lot. Thank you. All right. Agenda item 8.0, excuse me, is new business. The first 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4 and 8.5, I would like to bundle, but I do, no, let me rephrase that. 8.1 through 8.4, I would like to bundle. And then 8.5 would be separate. But before we do that, I just want to let you know about the changes we made. So these are the policies that the policy committee has been working on over the last month. So the first one was that's on your list, 8.1, item 8.1 is the first reading of policy BED, the remote participation in school board meetings. So this is, if you recall from the last time we discussed the remote participation policies, I said some would come out, they would come out individually. So this is the next one that we worked on. The big changes you'll see here is that going forward, because we do have this remote capabilities, if we do have board members participating in the meetings via Zoom, the expectation is that they will be on camera. So they would have their camera on, be on the camera. The other change you will note in that policy is that public comment now will be made orally. And so we will no longer receive public comment via email. So before I move on from that, and let me say one more thing, I apologize. There is an BEDHR, which if you open that up, that's a policy that really, when we talked about it as a committee, it's not really a policy. It talks about how we resolve things at the lowest level possible. And so the committee felt like this perhaps is something that we could remove from the policy and perhaps put it somewhere else. Versus have it live as a policy, because it's not a policy document. It's just if you have questions about your student, then where do you go to resolve that question? So there's potentially another place for this to live. We discussed maybe in the handbook, on the website, the parent page of the website, but that the policy might not be the best place for this. So our recommendation is to remove that policy and then just have BED on its own. So do we have any, let me go ahead, do we have any questions on that or comments? Yeah, go ahead.
About the email to public comment, are
Mhm.
we not going to accept them, or we're just not going to read them during the meeting, but they will be recorded with the meeting documents?
So did we say that? I don't know that we actually talked about accepting them. We did, actually, I know we did, and I'm looking at you like, we did not discuss accepting them and putting them, you mean as part of the record?
Part of the record,
Yeah.
yes, but not necessarily reading them into the
Yes,
record.
yeah, we definitely are no longer going to read them.
Yeah.
We can certainly go back and add that.
Yeah, it's not addressed in this
Mhm.
policy draft here. My recollection of the discussion that we had was that because there are still two means of the public participating, either someone participating remotely or being present at the meeting, that certainly the public still has the option of emailing the board as some citizens do from time to time as things come up. But that there seem to be two options available for folks to share their opinion.
Yeah, I guess just thinking about it, if someone just is entirely unavailable at that time, whether they're remote or in person, and they want a comment added, I feel like, why would we take that away? But that's just
Mhm.
take on it.
Yeah, and we can certainly talk about that at the committee level before the second reading. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Okay, is there any other questions or comments on that policy? Okay. This 8.2 is the first reading of JLCD, which is administering medication to students. So this document, we had our nursing staff join us for our policy meeting, and they really did a lot of this really all of the work, quite frankly, and did an excellent job of explaining to us the needed changes. The big thing to note in this policy, the big change is that it was amended to include the administration of Narcan when needed. So that is the way it was explained is it's in consultation, of course, with our physician, our district physician, and done by medically licensed personnel to do so, and necessary necessary positions. There was discussion with this around who this policy covers, and this policy is intended, as you can see at the top, to cover our staff and teachers, staff, or I'm sorry, not teachers, our staff in the district. So this would not cover anybody outside of the district who is authorized to administer medication. Is there any questions on that? Good. All right. Agenda item 8.3 is the first reading of policy JLCD E1, which is the request or permission to administer medication in the school, and that is the form that goes with the policy for parents to complete. Is there any questions there? And agenda item 8.4 is the first reading of policy JLCDE2, which is the parent medical permission to provide request for caregiver to administer medical marijuana at school. And so this one only, let me make sure I word this right. The parent has to be present and has to be the one to administer.
That's
This
correct.
should it be
School staff
necessary.
would
The school
not
staff will not
administer
take care-
medical
yes.
marijuana. That's correct. And that's actually outlined in the previous draft of JLCD. E2 is just the written
Just the
permission.
form. Yeah. Okay. All right, are there any questions on that? Okay. All right, so seeing no questions, I'm going to bundle agenda item 8.1, the first reading of policy BED, 8.2, the first reading of policy JLCD, 8.3, the first reading of policy JLCD-E1, and 8.4, the first reading of the policy JLCD-82. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
as
moved.
presented? Thanks, John.
Second.
All right, can we have the vote, please? Call the vote.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Ms. Giftis.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, agenda item 8.5 is the second reading of policy BEDH, the public participation at board meetings. So we saw this at the last meeting. I'm sorry, we saw this at 2 meetings ago. This was the policy that spoke to how the public would participate in our board meetings, providing public comment. And if you recall, Jenna, you asked if we could remove the legal name, remember, from the full legal name. So we did do that. So now the policy reads the full name only. So that has been updated to reflect that. Are there any questions on this policy? All right, so do I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings as approved or as presented?
So moved.
Second. All right, can we call the vote, please?
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Ms. Giftis.
Yes.
All right. Do I have a agenda item 8.6 are the meeting minutes of April 2nd, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? on The minutes? Okay, can we call the vote?
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Ms. Giftis.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 8.7 are appointments. 8.7.1 is the middle school assistant principal. So Jeff, I'll turn this over to you.
All right, everybody can hear me okay? All right. I'd like to start with our first nomination for this evening, and I believe she is in attendance as well. This is for our middle school assistant principal. So Angela Scully has been selected to fill this position, created from a retirement. Mrs. Scully received both her undergraduate degree and her master's degree from the University of New Hampshire and her assistant principal certificate from USM. She began her educational career as an instructional coach and language arts teacher at Massabesic High School, where she has also been the dean of students and is currently their assistant principal. Prior to that, she served as the assistant principal at Massabesic Middle School for 8 years. We're very excited to bring her aboard onto our leadership team, and I believe she is there. And if willing, I'd love to have her share a few words.
Still a little high for me. Thank you very, very much. I'm super excited to be here. I wanted to be here tonight so that you could put a face with a name, and also so that I could thank the hiring committee and Jeff and Diane and Kathy, who I'm super excited to work side by side with, and certainly all of you for the opportunity. And I do see this as an opportunity for me. I have heard wonderful things about your district for a very long time. And I'm very excited to join what I have heard is a phenomenal staff. And what I've learned even more about tonight is a phenomenal group of students. That's super exciting for me. And I'm just really eager to get started. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'm thrilled to work with you as we continue our journey together. Our journey now, which is exciting for me to say. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Angela.
I have a motion to approve agenda item 8.7.1, the middle school assistant principal.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Miss Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Miss Giftis.
Yes.
Congratulations. Great.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
8.7.2 is a Wentworth School special education teacher. And it looks like 8.7.3 as well.
Yes. So I'll start with our first Wentworth School special education teacher nomination. Andrew Malcolm has been chosen to fill this position, created from a retirement. Mr. Malcolm obtained his Bachelor of Arts degree in history from Bridgewater State University in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, and his master's in special education from USM. He was a special education ed tech 3 at Wentworth School for 3 years, where he also completed his student teaching. For the last 3 years, Mr. Malcolm has been a special education teacher at Buxton Center Elementary School, working with students from grades 1 through 4.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the Wentworth School special education teacher?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All right.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Miss Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Miss Giftis.
Yes.
Yeah, back to you.
All right, and another special education teacher at Wentworth, Ms. Stephanie Gray has been selected to fill this position created by a resignation. Ms. Gray received her Bachelor of Arts degree from Hamilton College in New York and her Master's of Science in Education from Butler University in Indiana. She's been a special education teacher in both Indiana and Connecticut since 2006. And most recently, she's been the assistant site coordinator for special education at Wyndham High School since 2020.
Fantastic. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the Wentworth special education teacher?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All right.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Miss Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Miss Giftis.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Agenda item 8.7.4 is a district-wide school psychologist.
Yes, so Amanda Knowles has been chosen to fill this position created by a retirement and a resignation. And so we're combining a 0.4 FTE and 0.6 FTE for a full-time position. Ms. Knowles earned her Bachelor's of Science degree from Dickinson College, her Master's of Science in School Counseling from the University of Tennessee, her second Master's of Science in Educational Psychology and anticipates completing her PhD in school psychology, both from USM this August. Ms. Nall was an officer in the U.S. Army for 8 years. She has been an alternative education teacher at Morse High School, where she is also a guidance counselor for 5 years. Currently, she's a school psychology intern with the Brunswick School Department.
Good, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the district-wide school psychologist?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Ms. Giftis.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, agenda item 8.7.5 is the high school spring coaches.
Can I bundle 8.7.5 and 8.7.6?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Albert McCormick for unified bocce and Lauren Murphy for lacrosse as coaching positions at the high school, and then Molly McRae as our middle school lacrosse coach, or sorry, 8th grade girls lacrosse coach.
All right, thank you so much. So do I have a motion to approve the high school spring coaches and the middle school girls lacrosse coach?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All
Mr.
right.
Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Ms. Giftis.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Agenda item 9.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Third.
All right, can we?
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
and Ms. Giftis.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great evening.